Interviewing season is now in full swing, so I wanted to take some time to talk about some common mistakes that I see and also made myself that didn't help me stand out in the overall interview process. Hi, I'm Laura, a PM working in tech, and on my channel I cover my life working as a PM, my life working in tech, and other computer science related advice. I think the biggest and the most common mistake that I see students making especially is that you're not crafting a clear narrative about yourself and what you bring to the table. I know, as a student, it's not really like you have an extensive work history or a lot of background or experience to really go off of and craft a fun and clear narrative about yourself. However, that certainly doesn't mean that you shouldn't, and also doesn't mean that you can't. When you're first asked, tell me about yourself by a recruiter or software engineer or whoever is interviewing you, you better have a pretty good story about yourself. In other words, you just really shouldn't be rambling on for longer than 5 minutes, and also without a clear goal in mind of what you're trying to portray about yourself when you answer this question. First impressions do matter, and I've often also found that people like to use this question to segue into follow-up questions, tying off of your interests and experiences that you've brought up during your answer to tell me about yourself. Your resume is going to be that factual representation of what you do and who you are. So, where you go to school, your education, what you're majoring in, and any previous internship experiences. When you're actually face-to-face with someone, this is your chance to add the sparkle and light into these things that you've already shown to that person. So bottom line here is that the tell about yourself question and other behavioral interviews leading up to the technical interview are all great opportunities for you to kind of highlight why you're the best fit for this role, and also any interests and experiences that you do have and why they may tie into the experience that you're going to be applying for or that you're going to be considered for. So as a quick example here, if I'm applying to Netflix, then you better believe I'm going to be tying things of entertainment, streaming, and on-demand media, and how they really influence and shape my life, and why that has encouraged me to now pursue a role at Netflix myself. I also take this time to highlight that even if my previous work wasn't necessarily in the entertainment or streaming world, how it applies to the kind of work that I foreseeably be doing at Netflix on my future team. Again, it's that chance to add that sparkle and glue that you don't necessarily see on the resume and can paint a fuller picture of why you might be the best fit for this position that they're interviewing you for. Now, you don't necessarily need to have the perfect story or perfect background, but as long as you're considering these kinds of things and how to tie themes together, you're going to be miles ahead of other candidates and interviewees who aren't necessarily thinking about this. The second biggest reason why you may be interviewing and applying wrong is that you're not tailoring your resume at all or not enough. When it comes to job descriptions, even if it's the most generic software engineer posting, they're probably going to have some sort of requirements such as technical skills that they're looking for. So they might ask for JavaScript experience, or they might ask for C or C++ or object-oriented programming experience. Tailoring resume is going to be a little bit more important though if you do plan on applying to different kinds of targeted roles, such as a product management role here and a front-end software engineer role there. You probably don't want to be using your generic software engineering resume if you're applying for design roles or product roles. And if you're also in the boat where you have a wide swath of experiences, projects, or otherwise pretty detailed background, you probably don't want to be applying to that front-end software engineering role with the same resume that you're using to apply for a full-stack or back-end software engineering role. The skill sets and type of work that you'll be asked of in each of these positions is probably going to be different, and you probably also have a slightly different competency in these skills for these different roles and positions if you're applying to a whole range of different jobs. I know, tailoring your resume is a pretty big ask, but I'm not necessarily suggesting you have to do it for every single position. If you have the time, energy, and patience to actually tailor your resume for every single application you're applying for, then by all means do that, because that'll set you ahead of the curve and you'll also probably see pretty good results. But I think if you're in a boat trying to maximize your output while also minimizing the time put in, then your best bet is just going to be having a stack of resumes to cover each different base or kind of application that you may be applying for. So for example, I was generally applying for software engineering roles and product roles, so I had 2 different resumes. And if you're interested in specific niches of software engineering, then it may also be in your best interest to kind of split up your resumes into those different niches to highlight different themes across each of these. Remember, even if your resume is a factual representation, you still do want to tie in that story that I was mentioning of why you may be a qualified candidate and why you might be interested in this role. The third and last reason why you might be interviewing wrong is that you're not highlighting yourself enough. Small words can make a huge difference when it comes to how you're representing yourself and the kind of work and impact that you have. After all, these short 30 to 60-minute interviews are all they get to get a sense of who you are, how you think, and how you accomplish the work that you've already highlighted on your resume and in previous interviews as well. Depending on how confident you are and comfortable you are in these kinds of situations, you may be actually underselling yourself, undervaluing your work, and using softer language to describe the things that you've been doing, even if they're actually really cool projects or high impact things. So now that I've got you thinking about it, consider the last time you actually had an interview and the way that you described the work that you've been doing. Were you talking about the specific contributions that you were doing by using I did this, or I did this, or I built this? Or were you actually saying that we built this, we did this, and we did that? You really want to focus on crafting I statements. Yes, kind of like in a high school health class, but less about the I feel and more about the I individually accomplished this and individually led this. Particularly if you did actually do your work in a group setting, like you had a group of other interns that you were collaborating with, it's going to be really easy to slip into the mindset of saying we did this rather than focusing on the individual things that you actually accomplished. Even if you did work in a group, you definitely still had individual ownership over certain features or parts that you can highlight and talk about in an interview comfortably. Remember, it's all about why you're a high performer and why you're going to be a great asset to the company, rather than how in previous experiences you worked well with the team. There probably are going to be behavioral questions that center around your ability to be able to collaborate and work well with the team, and those are the moments in which you can kind of pull out those we statements. However, when you are asked to elaborate on previous experiences, make sure that you are focusing on your individual work and contributions. Obviously, there's also going to be the other side of the spectrum where you're far overselling yourself and being a little bit too arrogant, so find somewhere in the middle that you feel comfortable with. Alright, those are 3 key tips you can bring with you during your next application or interview process. I hope that this was helpful, and if you have any other questions about the interview or application process, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. As always, you can schedule a coffee chat with me using the link in the description box down below, or join the conversation in my Discord channel, also linked in the description box down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again for a brand new video. Bye.
Suntan, sunscreen, strawberry, ice cream, midsummer's daydream, sipping in between long days, warm nights, gliding like light kites, sapphire, clear skies, whipped cream, cherry pie.